respectful, even when you don't want to or feel it. What? Woo-hoo-hoo. Being a steward. 5 points to Holly. Submitting. Know your place.
Diane, to you want slave and serve to be the same because they're different.
Mhm.
So like some of them should go under slave and some of them should go under serve, right?
Yeah. The only problem I have with picking one is the Bible doesn't pick one. It seems interchangeable in the thought process of the Lord. So maybe we'll just pick one, servant, just because I think serve and servant make a little bit more sense than slave and servant. But in Paul's letters, he refers to himself as a bond slave or servant of the Lord. And it's the same referral to some of the other people that he refers to. He says Epaphras or whatever, our trusted and beloved servant of Christ or something like that. I forget what he says, but he seems to interchange it, or maybe the translators interchange it. So let's go with the heart of it and not the term only, just so we can avoid getting mired down in the Greek. But we can if you want. So I was sitting in Panera Bread asking the Father about what it means, what service means, what is servant, and why was this so heavy on my heart. Can you tell me what servant means to your reputation? We are a country full, right, of independent people. Okay, like if I told you tomorrow, you are now going to become the servant of my house. I'm going to hire you, you're going to be my servant. I'm not going to give you the privilege of saying, oh, you clean my house, or you pick up my dry cleaning. No, you're just my servant. You're my one-size-fits-all servant. How does that feel inside of you? Honestly. Less than. What's it do to your reputation? Not so stellar. Love has play. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I want her on the microphone so bad, but she did so good. I don't want it. It's so much fun if we can just flow. Okay, raise your hands, use the mic. I'm sorry. I want the people in the recording to hear you. Okay, so let's go to John 13. What you doing over there? That's the wrong book. John 13. I just closed mine. Okay, I'm going to start at verse 3. This is taking place, for those of you who need context, this is taking place in the, is it the upper room? Is that where they met before crucifixion? Or is that after? We'll go with it. Jesus is washing their feet after dinner. Okay, this is the story. Verse 3, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands. Sorry, little Greek sidebar. That really means that Jesus, knowing it was all on his shoulders. He knew it was his time, and his was the clutch play. He knew it was his. Okay? Jesus, knowing that the Father had given him all things into his hands, and that he had come forth from God and was going back to God, got up from supper and laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he girded himself. Jesus. Okay, so we're going to read that again, and you're going to put your name in that place. So who's a good reader? Just let's volunteer so we can keep moving. Somebody volunteer to read it. I'm going to get Joyce to do it. She's closer to the microphone. Go ahead. Yeah, 3 and 4. Yeah. Instead of Jesus, you're going to say Joyce.
Joyce, knowing that the Father had given all things into her hands, and that she had come forth from God and was going back to God, got up from supper and laid aside her garments, and taking a towel, she girded herself.
Diane, knowing that the Father had given her all things into her hands, and that she had come forth from God and was going back to God, got up from supper and laid aside her garments, and taking a towel, she girded herself. We've been talking a long time now about being royalty and heirs. And so sometimes I think service gets pushed aside or overlooked for its place in the Father's heart. And Jesus here, I think, shows us a beautiful example of how he feels about taking care of each other and serving one another. In the Hebrew culture, from what I understand, foot washing was left to a servant. It was not something Jesus should have done, much less a rabbi. He was the honored guest, most likely. And here we have a rabbi washing these people's feet. This is messing with their whole paradigm. This is messing with everything. When it says laid aside his garment, the Greek there means mantle. Is anybody familiar with if somebody says they have a mantle on them, what that means? Think of Elijah and Elisha. There's a couple other stories where someone carried a mantle. What did that mean? A calling? Okay. So what do you think of that picture where Jesus lays aside his mantle and picks up a towel? This is the garb of a servant. He laid down, do I want to say he laid down who he was? He laid down, that's good, Matt. He laid down the perception everyone had of what this teacher, honored guest, rabbi was supposed to. Yeah, I like that better. I don't know. All I know is I'm sitting in Panera Bread and I see that he laid aside his mantle and I wanted to cry. Because we are all in places with the Father where we really want to know who we are. And we're in pursuit of this really important purpose of our lives. We're all in certain stages of unearthing this mystery that we have. But here Jesus is saying that's not the treasure. And he picks up a towel and he washes his disciples' feet. When you serve people, you take them into your heart. When you serve them faithfully, you adopt them. Serving goes through everything. It goes through your flesh. Your flesh does not like it. Serving is uncomfortable and inconvenient and always costs something. But it breeds such a faithfulness in us. Okay, so I want to show you this picture that the Lord showed me. Keep talking if you guys have other stuff. I'll put this up here. Or don't talk, we'll just be quiet. No, I was going to do Greek, sorry. Okay. Can you guys see this? Born again. Okay, let's review. Who knows what born again means? To be born spiritually. To give up the old and take home a new life. I like that. Salvation. Okay. You guys are so quiet. You're stressing me out a little bit. Okay, so born again essentially means that you are born spiritually from a completely different source. I often think that it's a separate moment from salvation because salvation is believing on Christ for what he did for you. Born again, I think, is a moment where you say, ha, I think I'm starting to get this. It's like when you wake up in the Spirit. It's like a matrix. You guys ready for a matrix example? It's like when Neo, was it the red pill? Took the red pill and he wakes up in the real world. Right? I'm sorry if that was too sci-fi for some of you. Oh, you do now. Okay, so this is that moment. And so from the moment you're born again, I believe that's where your identity starts to actually take shape. And this marker's dry, so we'll use this one. So I think we start to grow. And here we have identity, right? You guys are all familiar with this term. I'm not using terms we're not familiar with, right? Identity, yes, nod, smile, louder, thank you. Okay, then why are these two different? First you have your identity and then it does something. Your identity does something. Okay? When you know your purpose, you start to walk in it for a little while and suddenly you find your heart leading you and your spirit is leading you. And we couldn't stop you if we wanted to. Okay? Walk in your calling. And this, I think this, okay, I was thinking about this with the Lord. Forgive me, I'm going to put this in here. I think this is Jesus as the standard. So when you're walking in your destiny, you are fully alive in him with him as your standard. He is your example. He leads you. He talks to you. Is your source. Is everybody with me so far? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to call this a big funnel. You're born again, heading toward everything you were ever designed to be, right? There's a few parts of this. You've got the fathers and sons. That's the heart of the Father, right? He's our Father. We're sons and daughters. We're all pretty familiar with that. Last week, Mark talked about faith. That goes here. You guys remember what faith is? Fully convinced. Bill Johnson did a kicker talk on that this week, talking about faith is nothing until it's who you have faith in. So it's knowing Jesus, it's following Jesus as a standard, and this, serve. I was thinking about it I was just praying with Autumn a little while ago. The Lord helped us to come out. You know Jesus refused to be kinged on the earth? Bless him. Jesus refused. Actually, didn't refuse. He ran away from it. I think it's John 6. I'm going to read it just so you guys can. This is after he fed the 5,000. It says, Jesus, perceiving that they were intending to come and take him by force to make him king, withdrew again to the mountain by himself alone. Okay. When did they crown him? Louder, talk to me. When did they crown Jesus? On the cross with what? Thorns. I think we are royalty. We are all of those things. We absolutely are. We are kings and priests of the earth. We are daughters and sons in the spirit. Not in the flesh yet. And I think on the earth, serving is what Jesus did. It's that crown of thorns. That is the crown we wear. It's to pick up your cross and follow and love. What did he said? For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And do the rest of that verse. Give himself as a ransom for many. And so that's what serving does. Serving goes out and considers others better from themselves. Serving actually says, I know my Father's heart so much that I love you. I'm going to serve you at all the expense of myself. It's laying yourself down. And the picture that I get, you guys have to help me with this, is that serving then puts you in positions that are highly inconvenient and uncomfortable and difficult And you will encounter people that you don't necessarily want to serve. Last, last week I had an issue with somebody. I had a heart issue with them, and I said I just need to go serve them. Because when you serve people, you take them into your heart. When you serve them long term, you adopt them. Serving is one of the best ways to get rid of your issues with other people. Am I still here? Yeah. Go ahead.
What if you want to serve, but they don't want you to serve?
Well,
Like
okay.
they don't really want you around.
Who could not want you around, Becky? Let's talk about that. What are you thinking? Hmm. What else? What are you guys thinking? Lisa?
Sometimes the people that try the hardest to push you away are really like the people that need you the most, and they're
Yeah.
pushing you away, but like they really want you to stay.
Inside they're saying,
They want you to be there.
Ashley. Yeah, I agree. Hmm.
I wonder if serving someone in that scenario would be kind of respecting where they're at right in that moment and not pushing, but being completely there and ready when they're ready. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So serving doesn't necessarily like it does, but it can be a kind of withheld.
Serving can be a
does.
posture. It
Yeah.
can be an attitude toward them. Because you can still, what did we say serving is? Some of this was accurate, some of it, we were just getting out our stuff. To know your place, to give from your heart, to be committed.
Are you still asking the question, or is it?
Do it. Yeah, like I'm going to tell you what we're doing. Go ahead.
Does anybody know where Dawn is right now?
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but someone broke into Cindy Bigler's car about an hour ago out in the parking lot. And Dawn chose to be out there and clean up her car with her. Now, Dawn could easily take the seat of the queen of the house and have people wait on her and have a place of authority in the flesh. But instead, she chooses to put on dish gloves out there and help Cindy clean out her glass from the inside of her car. I think that's a perfect definition of what Diane's talking about.
And long term, what Cindy will remember
Mm-hmm.
is the love that Dawn showed her.
Mm-hmm.
Probably very little of what I teach tonight. That's awesome. In Galatians 4, you don't have to go there because I'm going to skip around a little bit. It's in here, but it's all over the place. So instead of reading it all, I'm just going to skip a little. Galatians 4, it says, "Now I say, as long as the heir is a child, he does not differ at all from a slave, though he is the owner of everything. But he is under guardians and managers until the date set by the father." Just keep that in your memory. We'll get back to that. But then over in 5, it says, "Now you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another." Now you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. But through love, serve one another. What do you hear? Do not turn it into an opportunity for the flesh. Yeah, Jim?
Last week, many blessings come to me this week. And last week, how can I say this? I had a heart. I want spirits to but I did anyway. I took in a homeless veteran. Couple days got him connected. He is down to VA now getting help. But he couldn't do nothing for himself, but I was there for him. Within a week, I got this guy help. There were a lot of calls to the VA and all that. He's homeless. I know this guy very well. It's a blessing. All this stuff is phenomenal. Because this past week, I've been so busy landscaping word of mouth. I got people wanting me to come to their yards, pull weeds all week, and I got a busy week. But tonight I'm here. I'm here to hear the word of the Lord, who made me come what I am today. So it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
God is good.
For you were called to freedom, brothers, only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. What do you hear? Let's talk. You hear love? But you were called to freedom, brothers. What does that mean? Well, I didn't read the whole chapter. I kind of set you up. It says, for freedom that Christ has set us free. So we are free. It says we're called to free. It's always been our destiny to be free. But don't turn it into an opportunity for the flesh. What does that mean?
I feel like it goes back to what you said earlier with we are royalty, we are kings, we are fathers, we are sons, but we can't walk around like pompous
Jerks.
jerks like we serve.
Okay, so like, I mean, Donna's our example right now, but go ahead, Elisa.
I kind of had this conversation with a friend of mine, kind of one of those, you can do whatever you want, but it doesn't mean you should. Like, you have the power to do what you want to do or what you
Mhm.
think is right and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But you also need to keep in mind, you know, you are, whether you like it or not, setting an example for anybody
Mm.
who is with you or around you and stuff like that. And you need to make sure that you're not doing things selfishly
Mm.
and something that could, you know, in the future or in the present hurt someone else or set a bad example for someone else and put them on a bad path
Hmm.
because that's not what God called us to do.
So, do we remember what the flesh is? Sarco, everybody knows. Part to be removed. Let's go. The flesh is the part to be removed, but what is that? How does that show up in your life? Galatians, it's okay. Well, let's keep going. I say, but walk by the Spirit, and you will not carry out the desire of your flesh. For the flesh sets its desire against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, for these are in opposition to one another. Okay, so if you are kinged spiritually, your flesh will get in the way of that, right? Are we all agreeing with this? Okay, so the fruit of the flesh, these of the flesh are evident. I'm sorry to read this, it's kind of a bummer, but we're going to do it. Immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, outbursts of anger, disputes, dissension, factions, envying, drunkenness, carousing, da 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 da. Okay? The fruit of the Spirit is right. Kings in the Spirit, servants in the flesh. That is the posture. When you serve in the flesh, when you serve naturally, you put your flesh to death. You put yourself under and you serve. Okay. Well, I thought it was good. Let's go to Hebrews 12. We were in Hebrews 11 last week talking about faith. So let's remember that when we talk about this. Father, help me to pull this out. It is for discipline that you endure, verse 7. It is for discipline that you endure. God deals with you as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? Even a verse ahead, it says, actually 2 verses ahead, my son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For those whom the Lord loves, he disciplines, and he scourges every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you endure. Okay. It is for discipline that you endure. For they disciplined us not a short time. This is talking about your fathers. Verse 11. All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. Yet to those who have been trained by it, afterwards it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Therefore strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight the paths of your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. Leslie, I thought of you when I read that. Therefore strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight the paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. I know it's kind of weird that I jumped from serving to discipline, but try to make this jump with me because I think they're connected. The Greek for the discipline, actually, it's not just the punishment. Like we hear discipline and we think of whatever form that took as a kid to us. You know what I mean? We kind of think about, like for me, I think about when my dad spanked me as a child. That was discipline to me. Are you following me? Try not to think about it that way. The actual Greek means the full training and preparation of a son. It's the scope of everything the Lord does to bring you into maturity. So when it says, do not, what was the term he used? Regard lightly the discipline of the Lord. It's saying, don't think of it too lightly, all the ways that he brings you around. Okay? Service is that. That is discipline for you. Think of all the ways we're called to one another now. Think of all of those ways we're called to one another. Think about it. Let's talk about that. I'm called to be your brother and your sister. I'm called to walk with you, called to bear one another's burdens. What else? Think of all of the things he's given us to one another. Pray for one another. What else? Encourage one another daily. Yep. Challenge one another. What else? Heal. Heal one another. Speak the truth in love. Does anybody have a place in life right now that's mundane? Something that you do in your life that is incredibly mundane, that if you could tomorrow, you would stop doing it? Working. Amber's raising boys. That can be incredibly monotonous. Eat, pee, wipe butts. What else? We all have some things in our lives that are mundane. You've been doing it for so long that it's lost its excitement. Does anybody have a commute they can make blind? Like your mind does not even have to be engaged to do it. How about routines in your day? Things that you do you don't have to think about. There are some things in my life that are incredibly mundane that I do not like doing. I believe that the Lord uses those times. I believe that those are service because most of what we do is for someone else, isn't it? I don't think there's a whole lot we do that isn't for someone else or someone or a family. Like Aaron, I'm sure you don't love your job most of the time, but he does it because he wants to provide for his family. Those things perfect us. They prepare us. They make us faithful. Like you prove how faithful you are by how you handle mundane things. If you skip from exciting thing to exciting thing to exciting thing to exciting thing and cannot endure seasons of incredible doldrum, monotony, what was the term I just used? Mundane things, you will lose out on so much that you need to reach the destiny that the Father has for you. Every point along growth, every point, and this is my opinion. I don't know if this is my opinion. This is just what I'm feeling. Every point of our growth has a season of mundane. It's designed for us to see what we're made of. Like Jason, you remember when he said, you know, if I just showed you your destiny, would you work with me for it? So you learn your identity, and for a long time, it's just the courage to walk in your identity, right? It's kind of figuring it out. And then after a while, it's kind of like, okay, here's a practical example. We took an identity class a couple weeks ago. How many people are still persisting through learning who the Father made them? Or has it kind of tapered off now that no one's nagging you about it? Yay, good, faithful. That's really good. Are there other things in your life that, you know, like, okay, working out or fitness, is that a priority? But if someone doesn't nag you about it, or you don't have that friend that's always like fit or whatever, it falls off your radar kind of. You kind of need something to kick you in your butt about it. What'd you say? Steph will kick you in the butt for it. Huh? Sleep. You need nag to sleep. You don't want to. I love that. Okay, so you have your identity, and you persist in the quiet when no one is watching. And you try things, and you fail, and you serve, and you serve, and you serve, and you serve. Autumn was telling me a story this week at Saddle Up. If I paraphrase this poorly, fix me. But when kids wanted to volunteer, Saddle Up was a horse youth ministry focused around equestrian activity. And if a youth wanted to volunteer at the farm, they had to start at the lowest point, the most mundane jobs. They had to do it for a year, and they had to be faithful. If they were faithful for a year, do you see what happens when you start at the bottom? When you do the grunt work and you serve with no reward for a long time. Have you ever heard of those really wealthy men who have legacies and really enormous businesses, and their son comes in who is used to daddy's lifestyle for a while, but if he wants a part of daddy's business, what does daddy say? Start at the bottom. He starts, I don't know if this is a good example, but he starts flipping burgers like everybody else. Or he starts, you know, let's say he owns Waste Management. He rides the garbage truck. He knows intimately what those loads smell like. Do you understand? Do we even want anybody around, anybody great who has not suffered through that stuff? No, the Father doesn't either. There's incredible power and authority that comes with the high places, and being faithful in the little things as servants is what proves us there. I mean, Mark's not in the room right now, but is he not one of the greatest servants among us right now? Jesus said, the greatest among you will be your servant. So we know the whole kingdom is upside down, but if you look around our house right now, really, if you discard reputation, who is the greatest among us? Who serves us invisibly when no one's watching. You guys ever see Sandy running around here after the gatherings, picking up water bottles and tissues while we're all relating and having family and enjoying the warm fuzzies? Sandy's carrying trash bags. And we let her. Sherry cleaning up after the meals over here. We handle our stuff and we're out. Why not? I'm not indicting. I'm just saying it's a chance to examine ourselves. It's service, yeah.
As we were putting that list together on the whiteboard at the beginning, I was struggling with the fact that leader wasn't on that list.
Leader wasn't on the list.
Well, I don't think you can discuss servanthood without discussing if you want to be great in God's kingdom, you have to learn to be a servant of all. And, so when I see the person who, when everyone else is doing their thing and having fun, and, it's the person who's doing that invisible job,
Mm-hmm.
I see a leader.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. And by the same token, you cannot lead without serving.
Without
No one's
serving.
going to follow you if you don't set the example in serving.
Yeah, I don't think my phrasing was right earlier, because I don't want it to sound like you age out of serving or you advance out of it. I think every level of authority in the kingdom, every level of Christ-likeness in the kingdom comes with greater service. I think it carries more service, more weight, greater responsibility to each other. I don't think, are you raising, somebody raising your hand? Sorry, couldn't tell. I don't think you can have that detached from it. Yeah, please.
The thing that it makes me think is that even though Jesus is the head, he's also the foundation. He's both. And so being a leader, you also have to be someone that others can build upon.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to be the servant of all.
Yeah.
And so it requires both. It requires you to be the head and the foundation.
I mean, yeah. Do you have, Sandy made me crack up this week because she was talking about the pity party that she was getting ready to throw for herself. Did anybody see that?
Yeah.
Do you ever have like the temptation to throw yourself a pity party? To kind of just mourn your lot in life? Can I challenge you that when you have those encounters, you probably are not serving enough? If you have time to fret about your life at that level, it is time to go take care of somebody else. And this starts young. We need a generation of young ones doing this. That is the revolutionary posture of the earth. Servant royalty. Wayne, oh my golly, dear Wayne, out here a couple of weeks ago, I pulled up and he's 78, 80, out there with a broom, sweeping off the front walk half an hour before anybody got here. He is still setting the example. When somebody serves you, they take you into their heart. You have a judgment issue with somebody? Is there anybody you see that you kind of can't help but have an opinion about? Oh, come on. I'm the only one? That can't we do? You cannot long-term judge someone and serve them. If you have a judgment with someone, go serve them violently. Get in their, no, don't get in their face. But punish your flesh. Look, we are not about the business of preserving our flesh and making this the simplest journey to spiritual kingship ever. This was never going to be easy. So punish your flesh a little bit. If you get a judgment issue with someone and your goal is to be like Jesus, get up in the face of your flesh, spend the money you don't want to spend, and spoil that person until you get over your issue. It's almost never about them. It's usually about you. There is nothing wrong with making it a little painful and getting it over with. I'm trying to think of an example where it's just, like ripping off a Band-Aid. Do it slow if you want to. Take a long time if you want to, and that's fine. That's up to you. But we have an earth to take care of. It'd be a really good idea to get over our stuff now. Oh yeah.
Okay, for like when you, this is the way I think about it, a person that you have judgment over, like, for example, there's a person that the reason I have judgment over them is because I loved and served them like with everything I had, and they just completely like threw me under the bus, just took every type of goodness I wanted to give to them to them and like threw it back in my face basically. And then like still tried to play nice at the same time. So my question is like I don't know where they are now. Like they're not in my life anymore. But like every time I just like, of course I try. Every time I think about them, my first thought is, oh man, I hate that person. But then I'm like, Jesus,
God, I'm telling you the
sorry.
truth because I cannot tell a lie.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm really sorry. I try. I'm trying to like change that mentality about every time I think about them that I cringe. But it's just like the reason why I feel that way about them is because I tried so hard to love them so intensely, and they kind of just like was like, no, I think I'm just
not
gonna
into it.
purposely. Oh, sorry.
What were you
I think
saying?
I'm gonna purposely try and make you not want to do that. I guess I don't know.
I think it really hurts your feelings.
That just so makes me think of what people do to Jesus all the time. He loves so deeply. He serves so wholeheartedly. And then there are people who just say, don't really think I want that. It's okay, thank you, but no thank you. People do that to the Lord every day. And so my encouragement to you, and I guess the thought with that is that we have to think like the Father. Why does the Father re-engage and say, okay, I'm not going to force my love on you, but my heart is open to you. And even though this really hurts, because I know what I have for you is good, just like you know that what you have for those people is really good. You have to do everything you can to keep your heart open.
Yeah.
And you tap into the Father's heart for them if you have to, for a while. But we do that to the Lord. And so I think from his perspective, he stays engaged. And I think because he does, so can we.
And what you're describing is a hurt heart and the struggle not to get better. I don't think that's a judgment. I think that's something you experienced. Something you know about him that maybe you wish that you didn't. You submit that to the Lord, and you honor in all cases. And let the Lord heal it. And I'm sorry. Yeah. So what are you guys thinking about? Good.
Okay, right.
Well, I'm thinking of this quote. I think it's probably been said by a couple people, but it's just been reminding me tonight. Like there's this thing that says like freedom without discipline or obedience is chaos, and discipline or obedience without freedom is slavery. And so you could even apply it to like you have a judgment against someone. So we're free to have our thoughts about them, to do whatever. But if we don't bring it into the obedience of the Lord and the discipline, we're going to have chaos in our heart because we're never going to be at peace with that person, you know. But if we pull ourselves in to really listen to the Lord and be obedient to him and be disciplined to serve the way he's telling us to serve that person, it's going to bring peace in that area, you know. But it's the freedom, the love, that's the key point that turns service into something fruitful and not, you know, something that we're throwing a pity party about our, you know, our
And
circumstances.
it's that whole thing. You were made for freedom. You were made to be free, but don't turn that into an opportunity to, you know, for your flesh.
Yeah, that makes me think too. I was reading earlier in Proverbs, the verse that says, "Where there is no vision, the people will go unrestrained." That freedom has a purpose, and the freedom is for the advancement of the kingdom. So there is vision for why we have freedom. It's so purposeful. But if we use it for something other than the advancement of the kingdom and walking in our sonship, then it is out of alignment with the Father's heart.
Adelie.
Is it possible to have two ways of serving? Is it possible to serve because your identity is has completely taken over and you cannot just help but do it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it possible just to make the flesh, like you're saying, and make it suffer and make it burn because, it has to serve, and just do it because you think that's the way, and maybe because others will see you?
Mm.
Is because I'm struggling understanding, why do you want to make yourself suffer
Mm.
by serving? I mean, serving, when you're a daughter and a son, it just comes part of, your nature. You're not struggling, I'm gonna wake up this morning and just suffer a little more.
Oh no.
You know what I'm
Maybe I
saying?
misphrased myself.
But
Um,
I wake up thinking, what exciting thing I can do today for somebody else. What is it? Who am I going to see? Who is going to call me today that I can do something for them, that can make their life better, that I can encourage? I mean, I am excited about that. But, the other way of serving is really making me feel like there's something wrong with me if I'm not suffering while I'm serving.
No.
So
No,
I was
okay,
just.
I'll give you an example. There was someone I had an issue with, and an opportunity came up on Facebook that they needed help, and it wasn't convenient, and I didn't want to, but I knew I had a heart issue for that person. I knew it wasn't them. I knew it was me. So I made myself go and look them in the eye and love on them, and it helped. I don't know how to explain it. But when I went out of my way to care for them against what I wanted to do and against my flesh and against my feelings and my own inside judgments, and I prioritized them over myself and what I wanted, it shifted it, and I no longer have an issue. I had an inside judgment. I thought I knew who they were, or whatever. And something about going out and serving that person, I even spent a little money and forced that thing through my heart that didn't want to talk about it. I mean, some people are a little easier on the grudges than I am. If I have a grudge, it can sit there a while. It's all right. I kind of like it. I like to lean on it and feel like the little victim that, you guys may not do that. I do that. Like, I have it there and I kind of like it. I'm a little stubborn about it. But the Lord doesn't love that about me. I'm stubborn about some things and the Lord loves that, but not about this. He loved that person. And they were a treasure for my life. They were a gift to me. And I was looking at them like they were a crime in my life. Like I needed to defend myself against them. And that cannot stand in my life. It had to go. And serving them uprooted that. Is that making sense?
That way, the more it's going to go from the two natures you kind of just described. Like if you're here and you start doing it, even if it's grudgingly or even it's what you don't want to do and it hurts to do it, then you start moving over here where this becomes more natural. So the next time something like that comes up, your heart's already turned in a way that it's not even going to begin there.
Yeah,
it's gonna already be.
I won't have to force it next time. It'll just be sure, of course, or or if I can't do it, I know it's not because I have a heart issue. Courtney, did you have something?
So growing up, I was a part of a church culture where we carried leaders' Bibles and the whole nine. And
I heard a term this week for that. Is that armor bearer?
Yeah, I try not to say it because I just shiver a little bit when I do. So when I came out of that, I really resented this part of, because I was young, I mean, I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, I was really little. And as I did it because I so loved these people, and I thought, I love you so much. Yes, I will open the door for you. Yes, I will be 9 years old and go to bed at 12 because I was helping you decorate the church. Like I just didn't care and I just loved so deeply. And so when I came out of that and saw how incredibly ridiculous it was, I started to resent this part of myself that loved to serve people because I felt like I had been misused in it. I felt like I had been taken advantage of. And so I just kind of shoved this part of myself to a place that I never accessed anymore because I didn't want to, I wasn't going to be, they
Used.
called it servanthood, but I felt like a slave, like a, just this person that would say yes. And so we'll just ask her to do everything. And so because of that, I just shut it down. And so a few weeks ago, someone came up to me and they were like, "You have such a beautiful servant's heart." And I was like, "No, I do not. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to." I just related so much hurt to that. And so then later I was like, "Lord, I don't want to feel this way about this because I think this is something beautiful about who I am." And I started to love those people again. And when I started to love them again, it released me from hating that part of myself. Because I realized that it didn't matter their response. I loved them so purely. And what I was doing was from that place of love. And that's why when I said earlier, it's about love to me. If I serve you, it's because I love you. It's not because I feel obligation or because I feel like not even that you deserve it. I mean, if I serve you, yeah, you most likely do, but it's just so different. And so I think that sometimes when you had such a negative response to the word slave and to the word servant, I think it's because we've had these experiences in our life that are so negative and we relate hurt to them or we relate bitterness to them. And so we shut it down and, well, I'm a son.
And
First, you're a servant,
son not
and then
always
you're
to
a
have
son.
a place and
Yeah. Like you don't have to do it anymore because it's not a part of your job description. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's my biggest concern because I think so many of us will be robbed from our purposes and our callings because we refused to serve. Because service will breed faithfulness in you that is so necessary for the big assignments of the Father. You can't achieve them without that. Amanda's taking the mic, and that's interesting. Can I tell a story about you real quick?
Yes.
So Amanda, if you don't know, Amanda is my baby sister. She's 5 years younger than me. And when she was a little girl, I would say 5 or 6 years old, this girl had the sweetest servant's heart you would ever see. She was, I shouldn't say was, but in that time, pronounced extreme service. So Steph and I caught on to this and knew she would do our chores for us. And we're the big sisters, and she loved us. We're kind of the heroes. And so all we had to say was, "Amanda, would you please?" And because she loved us so much, and we were her heroes, and she was made to serve, she absolutely would do this. Well, at one point, she caught on and decided to stop being used anymore. And we made her life miserable for, I think, months. We said, "You used to be so nice. You're not nice anymore. You can't have like kids do, stupid stuff." We used her. She was right to stand up for herself. That is different. Yes. The other thing you said was the armor bearer. I also have a history a while ago where we honored our leaders by providing someone to carry their stuff or do their doors for them. That was considered a place of honor because you got time with them that no one else got. So it just depends on how you view the opportunities you've been given. Go ahead.
Courtney, did I hear you right? Did you say that you serve because love is there? Like love is there first? So, in all transparency, if you can identify a person in your life where, as ugly as it may sound, you feel like maybe it's just a feeling, I don't know, but like there is someone in my life where I would honestly say I don't love that person. Maybe I don't feel love for that person, or maybe I'm just, love is not a feeling, I know that, but so how, if love needs to be there to serve them, I guess that's maybe I might have misunderstood what you're saying, but like, oh, that sucks so much.
That's not the answer you wanted. No. Katrina.
So kind of in response to what you said, one of my sisters is engaged to somebody that I'm not a fan of. It's been that way for a year. I've been very, very, vocal about it. And eventually got to the point where I was like, if I love my sister, I'm going to have to accept this kid. And it was really, really hard for me. Like, I literally have never disliked anybody so much as this person. And I didn't know what to do because I was like, I've never had that issue before. Oh my goodness. And it was a lot of pride, and I really did get over it. And because I loved my sister, I mean, am I best friends with him? No. Do I want to hang out with him? No. But when I see him, it gets easier. I've seen him maybe 10 times in my life, so it's not like we hang out all the time. But the first time I saw him, I was like, oh my word. Like, I didn't want to be around him, didn't say anything. And then I intentionally made an effort, honestly, totally transparent, not because I cared about him, but because I cared about my sister. And I said maybe like 10 words to him, which was an improvement. That night, my sister texted me, thanking me for being nice to him, and texted me every day that whole entire week. So when I saw what me laying down my pride did for my relationship with my sister, it made it easier for me to be civil with him. I'm still not at, it's a process. I'm not at the place where I really super fan, but it's easier than it was. And because I love my sister and I can see the difference that it makes to her, it makes it a little bit easier because I can see how it's impacting me and hers relationship, as well as teaching me a lot of stuff about pride.
Reese.
Yeah, I had something that maybe it can kind of relate to what you're talking about. Maybe not. You can just ignore it. But when I was in the military, I was enlisted, so we had to salute officers, and a lot of time there'd be officers you don't like, officers you hate, maybe don't respect at all, right? And you're giving them this salute, this honor. And I heard someone say once that the salute, you're not saluting that person, you're like saluting the office, and you're saluting who they work for and what they have. And I think with loving someone, it might not, and serving them, it's not really always about them, but who's above them, and who's inside them.
And who's in them. You see how quickly serving is now transitioning to us seeing who people really are, loving, and then honoring. What's the quote on our wall? Hold on. We should turn the lights on. I wish that worked. True honor, it sees who someone really is and then agrees with the value discovered within them. So we cannot honor one another and not serve one another, right? Okay, Autumn.
That made me think in Colossians 3 when it says, slaves in all things obey those who are your masters on earth, not with external service, as those who merely please men, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord rather than for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve. And I was thinking that with what Adelie was saying, that she serves because she loves to serve. But there are times that you will not really enjoy serving, and there will be times that you really enjoy serving. It goes both ways. Yeah. But that when your heart is in it, you have to realize that you're serving the Lord. Like with what Reese just said, ultimately, He's the authority that we're under. And when you serve a person that you don't really want to serve, really you're serving the Lord through them.
And I love what you said about serving the office or honoring the office, because each one of us are critical to the body of Christ. Every single one. So when you salute them, you are saluting who the Father sees. Salute, serve. We're all getting the parallel, right?
Diane.
Becky.
This is off of what she said. After when me and Randy, there was a couple months after me and Randy got married that we were having some marital problems, and I hated him. And it's true. But like I still was married and I chose to not run.
Good.
And in order for me to cook for him, do his laundry, I couldn't do it for him. I had to he was at that time Jesus. So I did it for Jesus. And then I don't even know how long I did it for, months. And eventually Jesus turned back into Randy. And then I could trust him again. So.
Yeah,
That is so good.
Selah.
Just related to that. Well, and I'll get back to you. You know how it says women submit? Submit is another word that showed up when I looked up serve. Do you know why that's so powerful? Later, somewhere else it says, I can't remember, but it says that your husbands would be preserved by the example of their wives. Service has such a heart-changing quality to it that when Becky served Randy in that way, it transformed them. It unlocked things that no amount of pride or counseling or any number of other things ever would have unlocked. Service melted. It transformed. Like, what does it say? That men would be preserved? What's that word? They would be something by the example of their wives. So when it says women submit, it is an incredibly powerful instruction. It is not something that reduces the woman. It gives her an incredibly authoritative place. We should never again see women submit and our hackles go up. It is giving us an incredible opportunity to be Jesus and to transform our husbands, our families, society. I didn't know that. That was really beautiful. I'm sure it was. Aaron.
Yeah. See, you saw the value of the covenant, and you honored the covenant. And we don't have enough people doing that and allowing our emotions to lead us, so that now the covenant that I made with somebody is no longer valuable.
Because I don't feel like
meaning.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I'm emotionally detached and I don't have to do it. And well, I tell you what, I've been talking, and it's just coming out of my mouth a lot more about not leading with emotions, which we talk about. And you could have easily done that, and you didn't.
So you want to do something different?
That's what I did all my life. So at that point in my life, I was like, okay, I'm done running. I'm going to stand and do it. So,
are you glad you did?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know.
And honestly, did you just say the born again thing? Yeah. That's the moment where she was sourced from a different place. Man. Autumn, did you? Casey? Okay. Are we seeing the picture now? I think that serving makes your destiny inevitable. And I think without serving, you'll never get there. It's the example of Christ. It's the crown of thorns on his head. It was the only crown he permitted while he was here. And I don't know what this looks like. I mean, we all have dozens of people in our lives that need service, but I think each one, it looks different, and I think that's why the Lord made us creative. Like in your case with your sister, Becky, I pray God's creativity upon you.
I am learning that I put it up on Facebook, that the qualities that I am realizing in myself, like the more and more I dig into my identity prayer, the more crap does come up. So I am learning that with the help of others, that these qualities that were once said bad, they are good. It's just I have to learn the new definition and what it looks like on the good side of those words. Like, I am bold, I am strong, I am intensive, but I can be those things even when talking to somebody that is like my sister, which is the total opposite of those three. So like when I am around her, like I need to speak less and sit and listen more. So like I can still be those things, but still
Submit.
when I have the opportunity to do so, to still be able to have a relationship with her.
And that's not a reduction of who you are.
No,
That's you
it's-
being stronger than you were before.
And it's actually teaching me to tune it down when I need to and then turn it up when I don't. Like it's basically more self-control of my identity and I really like it.
It's so powerful. I'm going to tell you a story real quick and then we can close up unless you guys have something else to say. I have an earring in my ear. You know how we talked about the bondservant thing? A little while ago, I got an earring. I did a lot of research about where that maybe would have been, and I couldn't quite figure it out, and I decided I didn't care. So I just got an earring in one of my ears to shut up, to commemorate that piercing. I wanted the Lord to know that I was his bondservant, that I knew I was free, that I'd been made for freedom, but I was always going to be with him. I wanted him to know. I wanted to have a mark on me that it was just obvious, as though I was in the Jewish society and they saw me on the street. Ah, that's somebody's bondservant. I wanted somebody to be able to do that to me. So I've had it maybe a year. Maybe a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, I ripped the earring out in my sleep. I ripped it out in my sleep, and I've been spending a lot of time with the Lord. A lot of time with the Lord. And I ripped it out in my sleep, and I didn't remember I'd done it till the next day. I was halfway through the day or something, looked through the mirror, and my earring was gone. And I was like, oh, where's my earring? Oh, right, I ripped it out in my sleep. You know what I mean? One of those delayed memories. I thought about it for a while, and I put it back in. I realized all over again that in the year that I'd grown, it was time to choose again. To choose again to consider everyone better than me. Not because they are, but because I love them that much. To do what Jesus did. And to not value my calling or my gifting, my mantle, over serving. It's a really good conversation to have with the Lord. Because when I put that earring back in, I was a different person than I was the first time I did it. To serve because you're his daughter, to serve him, to serve all of you guys, all of his people, because I'm royalty, because I'm an heir, because the kingdom is ours, because I see who you are. Nothing can stop that kingdom. Nothing can stop it. So I think we choose. I think we have a conversation with the Lord personally, and we learn to serve. We learn not to throw around our freedom as our excuse. We serve over and over and over again. The mundane moments, no matter how long they're mundane, we stay. Because there's well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a little. I will give you much. Enter into the joy of your master. I hear him talking to a daughter. Come into all of me. You've been faithful with the little bits. I'm not hiding anything from you. You can have anything you want. I've seen what you do with a little bit. I've seen you be faithful. I've seen it suck. So let's do that with one another. In the practical ways, when you see somebody needing help, serve. But also in the spirit, serve, submit. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm over here.
Oh, hi.
So, I like to serve people. I have a very hard time allowing people to serve me because it's been like there's been many times where people are like, oh, I want to serve you. I'm going to be intentional with you, da da da, and then they don't. And so in my mind, I feel like I don't have a bad view of serving, but I do in relation to people trying to serve me.
Because you don't believe that they will, or you don't?
Yeah, because they don't. Like I like to serve people, but I feel like now I'm at the place where it's very hard for me to give anybody a chance to even try to serve me because there's been so many times where people, yeah, Katrina, I'm gonna do this, da da da, da, and they don't.
And they don't.
So it's like I don't even want to set myself up for that anymore. But let's say you have something, an issue against me, and you need to serve me, but then I'm not letting you do that. Like I'm very much struggling with that right now. Like I just
It'll just come upon you on its own. You may not see it. Like Diane might not outright be like, "I'm going to serve you," but she just does it, and you'll just let it happen. I don't know.
Sometimes it just looks like friend. But I'm gonna find a way now because you challenged me now, and I have to. What are you doing to Katrina?
people like sorry. I don't want to withhold something if somebody is supposed to be serving like intentionally. I don't want to be like no, but I feel like that's what I do. Like I don't give people the chance, and I don't want to withhold growing from somebody because I am being stubborn, you know.
Well, yeah, I have thoughts, but they're not congealed yet. Maybe soon. Anybody else want to say anything to Katrina? Cassie? Oh. Well, zigzag. Serpentine.
I think we may be getting, well, maybe not everyone. Serving isn't just acts of service. Like it's not like, you know, I'm gonna clean your house or I'm gonna make you supper.
Though if you want to do that for me, that's fine. Go ahead.
But it could just be as simple as like giving a hug or praying over you or you know something like that. So
Being available.
So like people serving, like you know, I know you've allowed it. So you know, just don't think of it as someone doing an act of service for you. Like it could just be anything. So I know your heart's there.
I wanted to hear you.
I think sometimes we also put expectations on people on how we think they ought to serve, and then they're not met, and then we feel let down. Does that make sense? I'm not saying you do that, particularly Katrina, but
yeah,
that's just my thought.
I've done it. Yeah. You hold on to it. Anybody else? Oh.
My battery's dead. Can you read something for me?
Yeah.
Philippians 2:3.
You want to read it? Here.
My battery. Bible died. It's not good with the Bible.
There's Philippians.
Do nothing from selfish or empty conceit, but with humility of mind regard one another as more important than yourself. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also look out for the interest of others. Have this attitude in yourself, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, although he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but he emptied himself, taking the form of a bondservant and being made in the likeness of men.
I think it stands all by itself. I don't have to say anything. I want to be like him. emptied himself. You can keep that. Okay. Anyone want to say anything else? It's very sober. We're all bummed out and we have to go. Okay, I'm done. You guys done? And as the story goes, I love you. To be continued.